So, chapter 13, this is the first of three chapters on mortgages and lending. And in this chapter, we're going to describe the provisions of the mortgage and the note. We're going to learn about trust deeds. We're going to explain various methods of satisfying or transferring a mortgage, including the process of foreclosure. And there are two parts of a mortgage, the mortgage itself, which is the promise to pay, and the note, which is the financing instrument, which lays out all the terms of and conditions of the borrowing. So the mortgage is a pledge of property as security for the loan. You're basically saying, hey, lender, lend me your money, and I pledge to you, I promise you that I will pay you back according to the terms that we've agreed upon in the note. And if I fail to do so, you can foreclose on me to get that property that I pledged as collateral for the loan, sell it at auction, and use the proceeds to pay back what I owe you. Now, if that is not enough to pay back what you owe the lender, it is the note that makes you personally responsible for all that you've borrowed. So they could come chase after you for the balance of what the shortfall was, even after foreclosure, for any money that you may still owe the lender. Okay, so the note or bond, we don't use bonds here in New Jersey, but a bond is the same thing as a note. It does the same thing. Uh, it's the financing instrument. It lays out all the terms, the amount borrowed, the interest rate, the terms of repayment, what the monthly payment is, which would make the borrower liable for the full amount owed, even in the event of foreclosure. And if the lender doesn't get all their money back at auction, like I just explained, it's the note that makes the borrower personally liable for the full amount owed. And that's what allows the lender to come after you for deficiency judgments. The mortgage itself is the promise to pay the borrower. Uh, so it's the pledge of your property as security for the loan. It's the mortgage is the promise to pay, and that promise to pay says if the borrower fails to pay back the lender all the money borrowed, the lender could foreclose to gain ownership of the property pledged as collateral, sell it at auction, and use the proceeds to pay off the debts. And remember, the mortgagor is the borrower, right? And the mortgagee is the lender. That's the other guy. So let's highlight those things now in our notes. This is on page 257. The mortgage is a pledge of property that serves as security or collateral for the loan. And a note is the financing instrument. Then on page 258, we're going to highlight there the mortgage itself is a security instrument. And the mortgagor is the borrower. You're pledging that property as security for the loan. However, you're not giving up the property. You're holding on to it. You're living in it. You're using it. Hypothecation is a term used to describe pledging of property as security for a loan without surrendering possession of that property. It's the opposite of how a pawn shop works. You know how pawn shops work? You got something of value and you want to borrow money. You could go there and get that thing that's of value appraised at the pawn shop. They'll tell you how much they think it's worth. And then they'll loan you a portion of its value. And if you don't come back by a certain date to pay back the money and get your thing back, they keep it, they sell it, and they keep all the profits. Okay. That's not how mortgages work. Um, a mortgage is the pledge of property as security for the loan, but you're not actually giving up the property. They have to come and get it, and they come and get it through the process of foreclosure. And in New Jersey, foreclosure is a judicial process. It has to go through the court systems. Okay. So a mortgage is an example of hypothecation. Now, this term hypothecation, are you going to get it on exams? Probably not. They're not going to ask you what is hypothecation, but it may be one of the incorrect exam answer options for a question because they use real terms on the exam. So you'll probably see the term hypothecation on exams as one of the wrong answers for a problem, you know. Everybody got their notes? All
Got
right.
it.
So the mortgagor is the borrower. That's the easy way to remember it just by singing it, rhyme it, let it go, let it flow. Mortgagor is the borrower. It's the owner of the property. They're the ones that are buying the property. They're pledging the property as security for the loan. The mortgagee is the lender. And hypothecation is the pledging of property for security of that loan without giving up that security. You're living in it. So a mortgage is an example of hypothecation. The borrower's not giving up the collateralized property, they're just pledging it as security for the loan. And if you don't pay back your loan, the lender has to come and get it. It's not like how pawn shops work, where you leave the property with them and they loan you money, and then they just keep the item and sell it. So they'll have to come and get it. All right. So New Jersey is a judicial foreclosure state. So we don't use trust deeds. Trust deeds, there's a third neutral party involved that holds on to the deed. And if you default on the loan, then they just give it back to the lender. And if you pay off the loan, then they give you the deed, you know. So the trust deed or deed of trusts, we don't use them in New Jersey. We convey real estate as security for the loan. The trust deeds convey security as a loan. There's a trustee who's a neutral third party that holds on to that deed and gives it back to the lender if you default, or they give it to you if you pay it off. Now, if you default, they give the deed back to the lender. It's a lot swifter process. It doesn't need to go through court systems. But we don't use trust deeds here in New Jersey. Okay. So foreclosure using a trustee and a deed of trust is a lot easier process, which could be done swiftly without going through the court system. However, New Jersey foreclosure does go through court systems. So we have a different process here. We use notes. A note is the same thing as a bond. So the states that use trust deeds, they use bonds instead of a note, but they do the same thing. It's the financing instrument. It lays out all the terms of the borrowing. It's executed by the borrower at closing. The amount of debt borrowed is stated in the note. The time and method of repayment, so the term, the rate of interest, the monthly payment amount, and it's signed by all parties, the lender and the borrower. And it's what makes the borrower personally liable for the entire debt, even in the event of foreclosure, if the proceeds from the foreclosure sale are not enough to pay back the lender all that was borrowed from the lender. It is the note that makes you, the borrower, personally responsible for paying back that full amount that they borrowed. So it's the financing instrument, whereas the mortgage itself is the security instrument. So, what are the provisions of the mortgage document? Well, it's executed by the owner, the borrower of the property. The legal description identifies the property pledged as security for the debt. It identifies who the lender and who the borrower is. It should be signed by all parties. It identifies the obligations of the borrower and the rights of the lender. We learned that default or breach of contract is any time the contractual obligations are not carried out, the borrower's in default, and the lender could foreclose. So before a lender can foreclose, they'll generally give the borrower 30 days to cure any defaults, to get caught up. Now, what are the duties or obligation of the mortgagor, the borrower, that if they don't do these things, then they would be considered in default? Well, they have to repay the debt according to the terms in the note. You got to pay your mortgage. We all know that, right? But here are some other ones that you may not be familiar with. You also have to pay all the real estate taxes on the property. Because if you don't, what could happen?
You can get a lien to
A tax auction.
You
tax
could have a
auction.
tax foreclosure sale, and then somebody will get a tax lien certificate on your property, right? And if you don't pay back those taxes within 2 years, it could wipe out all other liens on the property, including a first mortgage. So you have to maintain, the owner has to maintain the property insurance, because if the property burns down, remember that property serves as collateral for the loan. So you have to maintain property insurance. If you don't, then you're in default on your loan obligations, and the lender can come and foreclose on you if you don't keep up payments on your homeowner's insurance policy. Because that insurance policy, look, you can't even close on the loan to purchase a house unless you show evidence to the lender that you have homeowners insurance policy in place that that shows the lender as the one who gets paid in the event of that foreclosure. Um, you have to make you must obtain the lender's permission before doing any major renovations on your house. Ooh, that's an interesting one. Most people don't know about this one. Did you know that? You need to get your lender's permission before remodeling your kitchen or putting an addition on the house. Did you know that?
Nope.
No.
Why would you be in default if you did not get the lender's permission first before doing that? Because you could start that renovation project. Let's just talk about your kitchen, to remodel your kitchen. If you start a project to remodel the kitchen, you didn't get your lender's permission on it, they find out about it somehow, they can foreclose on you, but they'll give you 30 days to finish that project. And if you don't, they could foreclose on you for starting a major renovation project without getting their permission. Why? Well, what's the first step of doing a major renovation, like the kitchen renovation?
Knocking
Other
down
than,
walls.
yeah, you do demolition, right? Demolition, the demo day. And boom, you got demo day. You gutted the kitchen out. No more kitchen in that house. And now you lose your job. Is your top number one priority finishing your kitchen? Or is it, how am I going to feed the kids? How am I going to make my next mortgage payment?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're out of work long enough and you start defaulting on your mortgage payments, the lender forecloses on you. What are they getting? A house with no kitchen. Did you just devalue that property? Can most people buy houses without a kitchen for most of the loans that are out there? No. They need to buy cash or get a construction loan to buy a house that has no kitchen. And you greatly devalued their security. So that's why they want to make sure that you get their permission first. They're going to want to see your plans, who the contractors are that are doing the work, and most importantly, do you have the money to complete this project? You have to maintain your property, otherwise you're considered in default. Some some homeowners have been foreclosed on because they didn't cut their grass. If you let your grass get overgrown and neglected, that you now got trees growing in the middle of your front lawn, you got little saplings because you're just letting it go. Your house is the eyesore on the block. It's now attracting rodents and all kinds of other little critters. It's a health hazard for the community. Your local municipality will start issuing you fines if you don't cut your grass, and you ignore them. Then the lender will be like, well, who do we go after now? I guess we could go after the lender, but what we'll do is we'll foreclose on the property. And if they foreclose on the property, what does that do to the lender's collateral? Wipes them out. All right, now you got security. Let's see, you have to secure permission before getting any second mortgages on the property within 30 days of purchasing it. What's the whole reason behind that? To make sure that the first lender that loaned you the majority of the money to buy the house is in the first lien repayment order position. Who gets paid back first in the event of foreclosure, other than taxes? Goes according to the
Order that they
order
filed.
in which they were recorded in the public record. Yeah.
Mechanic.
Well, mechanics liens can be retroactively backdated, but when you initially get your the mortgage loan to buy a house, the lenders, before they lend you the money to buy that house, they're going to want to make sure there's no other current outstanding liens on the property, like mechanics liens. So they just want to make sure that they're the first lien repayment in a lien repayment order. All right. Before you go getting any second loans to do any work on the house or to buy the house, which that could be a little tricky too, because sometimes there's a little bit of creative financing that's available. Most loans require that when you get a loan to buy a house, you have to put some of your own money down, right? And conventional banking theory says that if a lender loans you more than 80% of the value of the property, they're risking their depositors' money by lending it to you. So they won't lend more than 80% of the value with conventional loans unless you get private mortgage insurance, PMI, to ensure that other amount over 80%. So a creative financing option would be getting two loans to buy the house. You get one loan for 80% and another one for 20%. It's basically 100% financing. You still don't put any of your own money down, but it's getting two loans. But the lender wants to make sure that if you get any second mortgage, that it's not recorded for 30 days to ensure that they get the first lien position. All right, so page 259. Provisions for default. Acceleration clause assists the lender in the event of foreclosure. It is the first step of foreclosure. The lender will accelerate the terms of repayment, calling the entire debt due and owing immediately. So, when they do the collection calls because you're behind on your mortgage payments, you missed the mortgage payment, those calls at some point will stop, where even if you were to call the lender to make a payment, they wouldn't accept the payment from you. Well, that's when you know they enacted the acceleration clause and foreclosure had started. But even before that, what does the lender do when you fall behind on mortgage payments before they start the foreclosure process? Is they file a lis pendens in the public records. It's a public notice of possible future legal action against the property, showing that the borrower is behind on their mortgage payments. So really, the lis pendens happens when you fall behind on your mortgage payments. And then if you still don't make the payments, then the next step in foreclosure, or the first step of actual foreclosure, is they enact the acceleration clause in the note to call the entire debt due and owing immediately, that the borrower needs to pay the full amount owed. They won't accept any partial payments for you at any time now. We also have the defeasance clause. The defeasance clause sounds like defeated, right? The defeasance clause, it sounds like defeated. When you've defeated the loan, when have you defeated your loan? When you've paid it off, right? So when you've paid off the loan, it is the defeasance clause that says the lender has no further claim on your property because you paid them back in full. So the defeasance clause is the clause that requires the lender now to go back and record another document in the public records called a satisfaction of mortgage or satisfaction of lien, showing that they have no further claim on the property because it's been satisfied, it's been paid off in full. They don't remove the lien from the property when you paid it off. They just add another document that says that it had been paid. So now anybody who searches the public records in the future, they can see, oh yeah, this guy, he had a loan. Okay, oh, we match it up. There was a satisfaction of lien filed. That loan had been paid. And that's how they match it up to see if you got good, clear title. Usually when you buy a house, you get a loan from a bank. Most people don't have all the cash that's required, so they get loans to buy houses. Your local bank will lend you money to buy a house. Usually they'll resell that loan within a month or two. Who are they selling it to? Some third-party investor, which they already had lined up to sell it to before they even wrote the loan to give it to you. Your lenders will often not hold onto the loan for the full 30-year term. You go to your bank to get a loan, their job is loan origination. They make money off of loan origination, creating that loan to lend you the money. But they line up an investor who will buy that loan shortly after so that they could get all that money back, plus some of the interest up front so that they can earn some money off of it. And sometimes those investors that they sell the loan to will also pay them a servicing fee to continue rendering the billing and the collection of the mortgage payments. Okay. So that investor that they have lined up that they're going to sell the loan to, they're going to want to make sure what it is that the bank is selling them is really what they said it is. So you are the borrower. They will want the borrower to sign a document confirming how much they borrowed, what the original loan amount was, what the interest rate is, what the term is, and what the monthly mortgage payment is, and what the remaining balance currently is. And they do that in a document called an estoppel certificate. That's what an estoppel certificate does. It just verifies the terms of the loan that they're buying, right? If you were an investor and you were buying an investment that was already out there, right? You were buying a loan. Wouldn't you want to make sure that it is what the person who's selling you that loan is saying that it is? That's what an estoppel certificate does. It just verifies the terms of your loan. Now, they're also going to want to make sure that that bank that's selling them that loan verifies that same information. But they don't sign estoppel certificates. They sign something called a reduction certificate, which does the same thing that an estoppel certificate does, but this one is signed by the lender. Now, reduction certificates could also be used when you're selling a house to get the final payoff statement of the balance of the loan and such like that. But these are things that are usually provided by the lender, the reduction certificate, verifying the terms of the loan. Estoppel certificate is signed by the borrower, verifying those terms. You will usually get questions about an estoppel certificate on exam. You'll get questions about the defeasance clause, about a lis pendens, and you need to know what an acceleration clause is. Without a doubt, study those terms. I doubt you're going to get reduction certificate, but you may, but I doubt it. It's just a document verifying the terms of the loan, but this one is signed by the lender. Whereas the estoppel certificate is a document that verifies the terms of the loan signed by the borrower. Estoppel certificates aren't just used in lending either. When the building where I'm renting for my school, my friend used to own it, and the people he sold it to wanted to verify the terms of the leases that all the tenants had. So they had all the tenants sign an estoppel certificate verifying the terms of their lease. So estoppel certificates it's a document that's just used to verify something, whether it's terms of a lease or if it's the remaining balance in the terms of a loan. Any questions? No, we're good? Okay. Everybody got notes?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so here we go. Same things. I just put it instead of just highlighting those things, how I just described it to you. These are those words, how I just described to you what we highlighted on the previous page. The acceleration clause is the first step in foreclosure. It assists the lender in foreclosure, allowing them to accelerate the terms of repayment of the debt, demanding the entire debt due and owing immediately. But prior to enacting the acceleration clause, a lender would file a lis pendens in the public record when the borrower falls behind on their payments. This lis pendens is a public notice of possible future legal action called foreclosure that may be coming soon. And the defeasance clause sounds like defeated, is when the debt is repaid, the loan has been defeated. The mortgagee, the lender, has no further claim to the property. So this clause requires the lender to add a satisfaction of lien in the public records showing it had been repaid in full. It's been satisfied. See, it's just the words. It's so these are the notes, I guess, good to study. Right? Even though we highlighted these things, and I tried to put little notes here and there, this is a little bit further clarification of those. In case you want to snap a picture, hint, hint. Okay. Everybody good? All right. And about the estoppel certificate and the reduction certificate, here's just the notes that are verifying how I explained it to you before. So if you want to snap a picture of that, be my guest. Now, a note is a negotiable instrument that could be sold by the lender, and it often is. Assignment of the mortgage is when they're assigning their obligations to another lender. That other lender has to honor the mortgage terms that for the loan that you got when it's sold to them. A satisfaction of lien is filed by the lender in the public records when you've defeated the loan, and the defeasance clause is what requires the lender to go back and record that document in the public records. Why are mortgages recorded in the public records? Well, why is anything recorded in the public records? To put the world on notice of their interest in the property. So they're recorded in the county where the property is located, and the date of recording establishes the priority for the lien. So before any documents can be recorded in a public record, they must be signed and acknowledged to confirm the signatures are genuine and prevent forgeries. So what is an acknowledgement? Add that term to your definition list. An acknowledgement is verifying the identity of people who sign documents by a notary, a judge, an attorney, or another trusted public elected official, like a politician. Supposedly they're trusted. That they have certified that they know who you are, or they check your IDs and they're certain that they now know who you are before you sign documents. So an acknowledgement is a form like a notarization of a document by going to a notary public is a form of acknowledgement. They check your ID before you sign a document, right? And they verify you are who you say you are. And the whole idea behind that is to prevent forgeries. Like on TV all the time, you see every 10 minutes on commercials on TV about home title theft, right? Getting that insurance home title lock or something like that they have those commercials on TV for all the time. They say people are often stealing your they could steal your house and take loans against your house and such. All they got to do is get up a fake deed and have it a fake notarized and then recorded in the public records, and boom, now they could take possession of your home and sell it right out from underneath you. It's a little bit more than that, because these acknowledgments need to be notarized, and you need to have a licensed notary to do this. Any fake documentation like that or acknowledgments, that's hard to do. And if even if they do manage to get it by, before they record changes like that, your county will send the confirmation of those documents to your house. Right? So unless they're also stealing your mail, good luck in that happening. So when they start selling that home title lock insurance, often that's BS. It's a waste of your money. Even though they say the FBI says there's a growing crime of home title theft, Well, these are things that would prevent that. Now, usury. What is usury? It's charging an illegally high rate of interest. Every state has its own usury laws. Usury laws are to prevent loan sharking. You know what a loan shark is? Remember the mafia, the mob? They used to lend people money at a real high interest rate. If you don't pay them back, they come back and they break something. Well, usury laws are in place to prevent things like that from happening. They're to prevent loan sharking. And it only deals with private lenders, not with the lending institutions like banks. Okay. So usury laws only apply to private parties who lend money. That also includes seller financing. So if I give you a loan to buy my house, usury laws apply to our transaction. I cannot charge you too high of an interest rate. That's what usury laws are there to prevent. So you got a question? What's considered too high? Well, how about we consider what is acceptable? In New Jersey, sellers can charge no more than 16% on a first mortgage. However, if it's their primary residence that they're selling to you, they could charge as much as 30%. 30% is acceptable when selling your primary residence, and that's not considered usury. Well, not surprised that they would consider that fine. I mean, have you seen interest rates on some of the credit cards out there these days? 30% is pretty common or higher. I got a little video here for you. It's a short one. It's really, really short. I got this clip from a documentary movie called Money is Debt that I think everybody should watch. I think you guys should watch it in full. I think that everybody before they graduate high school should be required to watch this. It is put in a cartoon-like format. It is explained, everything is explained in a simple, stupid way that everybody could understand. And it deals with how money works, how money gets its value, and how borrowing works. And it uses a fictitious story to try to explain it. And it does a really good job. So this is just a section about usury, which is kind of entertaining. It gives you a little interesting look that a lot of people may not be aware of. So let me actually raise the volume on mine here, and I will play this for you.
At one time, charging any interest on a loan was called usury and was subject to severe penalties, including death. Every major religion forbade usury. Most of the arguments made against the practice were moral. It was held that money's only legitimate purpose was to facilitate the exchange of real goods and services. Any form of making money from simply having money was regarded as the act of a parasite or of a thief.
Oh, did you guys know that? Every major religion at some point in time considered making money simply from the act of having it is the act of a parasite or a thief. It's sacrilegious and was punishable by death.
Did you say every religion at some point?
Every religion at some point believed that. So some religions loosened up. You know, a lot of Christianity has loosened up on that. Um, the ones that still abide by it are devout Jews and Muslims. Devout Jews, like the Hasidic sect of Jews, it's against their religion to pay interest. And the same thing for devout Muslims. It's against their religion to pay interest. You know, the first time somebody said that to me, you guys are looking at this with a plain face and not, you know, the first time I heard that, I was like, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, you and me both, buddy. It's against my religion too. I don't want to pay interest either. Who does, right? But that's a real thing. It's against religions to pay interest. So how do these religious people get a loan to buy a house? Who's going to give you a loan? How do lenders make money? They charge you interest. What is interest? Interest is the rent for the use of someone else's money to borrow it. So how do you get a loan to buy a house if they don't charge you any interest? There's interest-free loans out there. They're called shared equity mortgages. A shared equity mortgage is one where the investor will lend you the money interest-free. You still need to pay it back. The mortgage payments are smaller and you can pay them back quicker because they're not being charged any interest. But what does the lender get out of it? Well, it's called a shared equity mortgage. Equity is the value. So when you sell that property eventually for a profit, the lender shares that profit with you. You split that profit with the lender. That's what a shared equity mortgage is. Now the
Is
lender,
that common for banks, or do you mainly only see that in like
you'd have to go
communities
to
where
it's private investors, or it could be like the rabbi, you know, the church or the religious organization as a whole could be lending that money and then sharing in the profits from their congregation members when they sell their houses, and they split the profits from the sale of their home because they become essentially co-owners of that house with you, right? So it could be the religious organization that's lending you the money, or it could be a private investor. Usually banks don't do this. Banks want their money ASAP so that they can lend it again. Banks make their money in loan origination. All right, so how about this? We know that usury is charging an illegally high rate of interest, and it only applies to private lenders, not to institutional ones. But check this out. If you get a loan from a private lender, the IRS can step in and say, if you don't charge a high enough interest rate so that we could tax it and get our fair share of your transaction, we could impute a higher interest rate and tax you accordingly so we could get our share of the pie. Another reason to get rid of the IRS, useless organization. So, imputed interest may benefit the buyer by charging a low interest rate. But IRS would impute a higher interest rate and tax you accordingly to get their fair share. But this only applies in transactions of $2.8 million or less. So it's not like they're going after the uber rich on this. The IRS says those private lenders must charge you at least 9% interest rate or an amount equal to the applicable AFR. That's the applicable federal rate, whichever is lower. Currently, the applicable federal rate for us, I think, is currently in the 4s. That's why the interest rate, the markup on it, the interest rate is currently around what, 6.5% right now, 6.25% for a loan, something like that. I think it's 6.25. Interest rates drop down. Trump's working on getting those interest rates down, but it's taking a time. The guy that's left over in there, that Powell, he's the head of the Federal Reserve. He's not exactly working with Trump on lowering the interest rates as he did with Biden. He was eager to do drops of interest rates left and right without even asking. Trump is begging him to lower interest rates and not raise them. And, he's even giving him nicknames. What's that? Too late Powell or something like that, or too slow Powell. He's too late and too slow in giving the drops of the interest rates to benefit the economy. So this is why. Now, does the head of the Federal Reserve, do they actually, what is the Federal Reserve? Is that part of the government? The Fed, the Federal Reserve?
No, it's a private owned company.
Institution, we'll call it. Okay. Every lender that does business in the United States is a member of the Federal Reserve. It has nothing to do with the federal government. The president can appoint somebody as the head of the Federal Reserve, and then that could be voted on to approve and confirm that person, but it's actually not part of the federal government. It's all the lending institutions that do work in the that do lending in the United States. They're going to be members of the Federal Reserve, but they have nothing to do with the federal government. They're independent banks that are member of their own trade organization, which is the Federal Reserve. Sounds like the federal government, right? But their job is to try to maintain sound lending conditions in the United States to balance the economy out. Okay. We'll go over that in a little bit more later. Now, there's no prepayment penalties are allowed in New Jersey. That's what you need to study and know for exams, even though it's not completely true. It may be for your residential property loans that you get. If a loan is prepaid before its due date, no prepayment penalties are allowed in New Jersey. They cannot be charged by institutional lenders anyway. Private lenders can charge prepayment fees and penalties. However, institutional lenders like banks, they cannot charge prepayment fees. Okay, that's basically a penalty for paying off your loan sooner than anticipated. Like if you get a 30-year mortgage and you pay it off in 25 years, they cannot charge you prepayment penalties. Institutional lenders cannot. Private lenders, those private investors, however, can. But what we need to know for exams, don't worry about that tomato, institutional versus private. Just know for exams and study for exams, no prepayment penalties are allowed in New Jersey. So you highlight that. Everybody got it?
Yes, sir.
First and second mortgage lien priority. Mortgage loans on real estate, the priority is based on the date of recording in the public records. Now, this is important because in the event of foreclosure, loans are paid off from the proceeds of those foreclosure sales, the auctions. And the proceeds, they get paid off, those loans get paid off from the proceeds according to their priority until there's no funds left. And then any others that are left over are completely wiped out. Home equity loans are often a form of second mortgage loan. That's where you get a loan against the equity, the built-in value that you have in the home. Equity is the difference between how much you owe on the property and what the market value is. A subordination agreement is an agreement where a primary lien holder that holds a primary lien position signs a document agreeing to drop back in the lien repayment order, becoming subordinate to other liens. Why would they do that? Well, sometimes this is done to allow further financing, usually for things like home improvement loans. The loan is much smaller than the first loan and would not wipe out the lender's interest if that smaller loan were to jump ahead of them and they needed to foreclose at some later time. First of all, that home improvement loan increases the value and is a smaller loan. So if foreclosed, there'd be money left over to pay off the original lender in the first lien position that had dropped back to the second. Because that home improvement loan, first of all, it's a small loan, and it increases the value of the property. So they see that second loan as a very, very tiny risk. So they have no problem allowing them to jump ahead of them, and that primary lien holder dropping back, becoming subordinate to the other. Subordinate begins with the word sub. Sub means beneath. Subordinate, that's somebody that works under you, right? Subordinate. Submarine, under the water. Marine is water, you know. So ordination, the order. So let's highlight this and let's write here: a home improvement loan could benefit all concerned. Home improvement loan is one example where this gets done. Probably the only that I'm guessing, that I'm aware of. Okay. When all mortgage loan payments have been made and the note is paid in full, the mortgagee, the lender, is usually required to execute a release of mortgage, sometimes referred to as a satisfaction of mortgage, as the lender is required to do per the defeasance clause, because they defeated the loan. Yeah, baby, you paid it off. All right, and then beneath that here, there's nothing to highlight or anything. You could just write see page 259 notes underneath reduction certificate. The reduction certificate does the same thing that an estoppel certificate does, but it's signed by the lender, who verifies loan terms and payoff amount to the investor who buys the loan, or a closing agent when a home is being sold or when a loan is getting paid off. It's basically to give them a payoff statement. Everybody good?
Yes, sir.
Deb, you good? Need a minute?
Good, thank you.
Deb?
I was just trying to, you say see page 259
See page 259 notes.
when I just trying to find the paragraph.
Oh, for this one? This is on page 261.
260.
Yeah, on page 261, that's where I have you write the note. That's where they have page 261 under where it says assuming a seller's mortgage in the middle of the page. You see it says reduction certificate in bold there.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, just right underneath that page 259, because that's where we had the notes for estoppel certificate, and we made those explanations.
Got it.
Okay,
Thanks.
you're welcome. All right, so we got a satisfaction of mortgage lien. That's the document that's recorded in a public record by the lender stating the loan has been satisfied or repaid in full. The lender has no further claim on the property. The defeasance clause requires the lender by law to record a satisfaction of mortgage lien in the public records once the borrower paid off the loan. Now, assuming the seller's mortgage loan is taking over someone else's loan. The primary mortgager, however, the borrower, never gives up liability to pay it back. So if you have a loan that is assumable and you allow someone just to take over the mortgage payments on your loan, if they don't make the mortgage payments, you're still responsible to make the mortgage payments. Got it? Most loans are not assumable. They have a clause in them called the alienation clause, also called the resale or due on sale clause in the note. This states that upon transfer of ownership, the loan must be paid in full. The purpose is to prevent the loan from being assumed or taken over by a new owner, especially if it's at a lower interest rate. You get why lenders don't want you to just take over anybody's loan? Because they want you to get the loan at whatever the current rates are, especially if they're currently at a higher rate. Now, if the loan is at a higher interest rate than what's currently available, the lender may not have a problem with you assuming a loan. It's all about their pocketbooks, their wallets. So loans without an alienation clause can be assumed or taken over by the new owner, who can just continue making payments on the existing loan. This can be beneficial if a loan is at a lower interest rate than currently available to those who get loans in the current market and the new owner. They wouldn't have to qualify for the loan or pay any closing costs either, because the loan's already in existence. However, most newer assumable loans require the new owner to qualify for the loan and be approved for the loan before they can assume it. Why would a seller want to allow somebody to just take over the loan on their house? Why would a buyer want to just take over someone else's loan, other than the fact that it could be a lower interest rate and it could save them in closing costs? Well, maybe they're not able to qualify for a loan otherwise. So this would be a good way for them to just take it over. Even though the newer loans, like it says at the bottom there, they now have a requirement that on newer assumable loans that the borrower has to be able to qualify. In the past, they didn't have to. You could just take over anybody's loan. So you see how it would be beneficial to a borrower who basically got crap credit perhaps and they can't get a loan otherwise, if they could just take over somebody's loan payments. Well, that's no longer the case because these new assumable loans, the borrower still needs to qualify. So what's in it for the seller? Maybe they could sell their home quicker, especially if you're in a current market where the banks are not lending. This could be attractive. So the alienation clause is also known as what? The due on sale clause. Or they could ask you, the due on sale clause is also known as the alienation clause. And what do you call the clause in the note that prevents a loan from being assumable? The alienation or due on sale clause. This will be on exam. So let's highlight and write these notes here on page 261 next to alienation clause, next to the title, write due on sale clause, just like that. And then we'll do these highlights as well.
Got it.
Good.
All right. So how does foreclosure work? Well, when a borrower defaults in any of the obligations of the mortgage, this could result in foreclosure. The lender typically gives the borrower 30 days to cure any defaults. Then a lis pendens is recorded in the public records as a public notice of possible future legal action, which is foreclosure against the property. Foreclosure is the legal process of a lien holder, the lender, taking ownership of a property which has been pledged as collateral for the loan through the court action. The first step of starting foreclosure is enacting the acceleration clause in the note, calling the entire debt due immediately. The lender may ask the court to order a foreclosure, also known as an auction or sheriff's sale. Before a sheriff's sale can take place, all interested parties, including renters, need to be made aware the foreclosure is in progress. And obviously, this sometimes creates a problem for an owner trying to get caught up on their mortgage payments to avoid foreclosure if the tenants stop paying rent. The owner should immediately take action against such to evict such tenants who create these problems, right? Because the law requires that all parties involved, including renters, be aware that a foreclosure is in progress. And you get tenants, they get this attitude about them that, well, if the owner is not paying their bills, why the hell should I pay mine? I'm not going to pay them. So I always advise the landlords at that point. I say, start eviction on them. It's gonna hit their credit. It's gonna destroy their credit. Let that tenant know before you do, though. Tell them, listen, you got to pay your rent. If you do not pay your rent, I'm going to start eviction proceedings on you. Well, you're not paying your bills. Well, don't you worry about my bills. I'm trying to get caught up on it so I could keep this property. You're making it harder for me to do that. And if you're going to screw me over, I ain't letting you get away with that. I'm going to destroy your credit by taking you to court to evict you. Now, good luck trying to rent somewhere else after this property gets foreclosed on. Good luck trying to find another place to rent when you got an eviction on your credit report. You better take it seriously and get nasty with those tenants because they're getting nasty with you by not making those payments. Okay. and you're trying to keep your house, and they're trying to make it harder for you to. That's essentially what they're doing. So then a sheriff's sale needs to be advertised in the local newspaper for 4 weeks and a paper in Trenton. So how does that sheriff's sale, that auction work? Well, a sheriff's auction may be delayed twice, 2 times for 2 weeks by both the mortgagor and the mortgagee. So twice for 2 weeks each time, that's 1 month. So the mortgagor, the borrower, can delay it for 1 month, and so can the lender. Why would the lender delay it for a month? Because they just want to get their money back. They're not trying to screw you over. They want you to they want to get paid back what's owed to them. So they'll get it a lot quicker if they work with you. So they're willing to delay the auction so that they could get more money back from a traditional sale. So bidders must pay cash at these auctions, at least 20% at the auction, and the balance must be paid within 10 days, at which time a sheriff's deed it's actually called a bargain and sale deed and just says sheriff's deed on top, is delivered to the successful bidder. The mortgagor, that's the borrower, could still repay all outstanding fees and redeem the property before the 10 days when that sheriff's deed is delivered to the winner of that auction. After that time, though, that they're delivered that deed and the balance is paid, there's no further right of redemption that exists in New Jersey for the homeowner. You've lost your property at that point. Okay, so can you help somebody as a real estate agent avoid foreclosure, even if a foreclosure auction has been scheduled?
I would say yes.
The answer is yes, because we could still get the borrower to delay the auction for up to a month, and we could get their lender to delay the auction for up to a month. How long does a typical traditional sale take to close?
60 days.
2 months, right? 60 days.
Months.
And then you got another 10 days after the sale still to close before that sheriff's deed is delivered and the balance is paid off. I've done this for people before. Well, I've done it. They approach me, they're behind on their mortgage payments. They know they're in danger of foreclosure. And then I ask them, have you been notified that a sheriff's sale has been scheduled yet or not? I tell you right now, I bet they don't know. Because when people are in danger of foreclosure, they stop opening their letters that they get from courts. They don't even open the mail anymore. It's in a pile in a basket by the front door or something, right? So you got to tell them, listen, you need to go through all that mail and go through it. A lot of it's going to be the same stuff, but you need to see if there is a sheriff's auction that has been scheduled, okay? If not, we have more time. We could try to market your property at a little higher price and try to get you a nice profit from the sale of your home still. But if it's already been scheduled, we need to price it kind of aggressively to get a sale. You'll still hopefully walk away with a profit after paying off your lenders, your lien holders. But if it's not been scheduled yet, we may be able to get you even more because we have more time to market it. And then when we get a buyer, we could file for these delays. If there is a sheriff's sale that gets scheduled, we wait for that sheriff's sale just about to happen. And then last minute, we'll have your attorney reach out to the sheriff's department and delay it for 2 weeks. And then after the 2 weeks, they're going to try to schedule it again. We wait for that auction to get a little bit closer, and you get them delay it another 2 weeks. Okay, that's the way you really stretch out. You could stretch out that that 1 month to even be a little bit more time, a couple more days out of it too. Okay. But this is how it works. We could stretch it out and we could help save people from foreclosure. Most people that go into foreclosure, it's not because the house isn't worth it anymore or because they don't have a lot of equity in it. It could be because they have a lot of bills and they have a lot of debt and there's a lot of liens on their property. But sometimes they don't have a lot of liens on the property. They just maybe lost their job or something happened, some unfortunate situation. They were unable to pay their bills, but yet they had the house mostly paid off. They only owed like 5% of the value of the home still. They were down to their last couple mortgage payments and they lose their job or something happens. They get hurt. They can't work. They can't make their mortgage payments. So they have a huge amount of equity. The house is mostly paid off. Doesn't matter. The lender says they want their money. You still owe us money. We want that money. And how do they collect money? It's through the process of foreclosure, taking that property that was pledged as collateral and sell it at auction. Which way will you get the most money? Selling your home at auction or through just the traditional sale by listing it on the market with a real estate agent?
Traditional sale.
The traditional sale. But so if they come to us with enough time, we could be able to get them a lot of money for their home with a traditional sale. But if they wait and wait and wait to the last minute, now you're down to a foreclosure happening. Now we're just trying to prevent that from happening, because if it does happen and there is a foreclosure and then an auction, so they'll get much less money for the home at auction than they would with a traditional sale. And then the lender gets paid off their balance. What happens to the rest of the money, the rest of that equity they had built into the house? It actually goes back to the homeowner that got foreclosed. That's their money. But they could have gotten a lot more if they took their head out of the sand and took the issue head on before it came down to the point of foreclosure. So that's the sad part about it. A lot of people don't know that, and they wait till the last minute and they lose a boatload of money that could have been in their pocket. All right, so that's foreclosure in a nutshell. So let's do some highlights here. The only highlights we could really do is that the successful bidder must pay cash 20% at the auction and the rest within 10 days until a sheriff's deed is delivered to the buyer. After that time, no further right of redemption exists in New Jersey. Yeah. They got a little note here about other states. In some other states, the former owner has a statutory right of redemption for up to 1 year, even after the foreclosure sale. Imagine being the investor buying that property. You wouldn't want to dump a whole lot of money in that property for up to a year, because the homeowner, the former homeowner, can still come back and get the property. They can redeem their property still up to a year later. Not New Jersey, though. That's also with tax auctions. Tax auctions don't work the same everywhere, guys. There's two types of tax auctions. I told you guys I'm going to create a video about it. I'm going to post it online. I even have videos I could just put together where other people explain this stuff too. How auctions work in some other states, like in Pennsylvania, for instance. They don't work like New Jersey does. New Jersey is a better place to have the tax auctions. Because of a couple of reasons. There could be other liens still on a property and tax sales in other states. In New Jersey, they're completely wiped out. So that sheriff's deed, it's called, this is what the note is on the side that I wrote here. The bargain and sale deed is the actual type of deed. That's a specific type of deed. And it just says sheriff's deed on top of it. So a sheriff's deed is actually a bargain and sale deed. What is a bargain and sale deed? It's the holder of a bargain and sale deed is just saying we have the legal right to sell the property, but we're not guaranteeing the quality of the title. It just says we got the legal right to sell it. Okay. Now here's some more alternatives to foreclosure. A deed in lieu of foreclosure. A deed in lieu, that means instead of. A deed instead of foreclosure. That's what a deed in lieu of foreclosure is. It's an alternative to foreclosure. Some people refer to this as friendly foreclosure because it's by agreement rather than through court action. The lender approaches the borrower and they say, just sign the deed back over to us and we won't foreclose on you. Just give us the ownership back. Save us the cost of foreclosure and the long, lengthy process. Just get out and sign the property back over to us. That's one alternative to foreclosure. However, if that does happen, well, there's no foreclosure on that borrower's credit report now because they just signed the ownership back over to the lender. Foreclosure didn't happen.
Do
However,
they
the
still get
lender,
any equity that they have?
no.
Got it.
The lender takes the risk though, because foreclosure would have wiped out other liens that are on the property. And the disadvantage to the lender is they could be taking the ownership with other liens attached to it, and then they'll become responsible for paying them because liens attach to properties, not to property owners. So if the lender manages to resell that property within 90 days, they could get a deficiency judgment against the mortgager who defaulted on the loan if there was not enough equity there to pay back everything that was owed. Actually, no, even if they do sign the, you know what? That's a good question. I shouldn't say no outright because I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay.
That's a good question because it's not getting foreclosed on. They're just basically giving the ownership back to the lender. So I would assume no, because there's just signing the ownership back over to them. They're giving them the ownership of the property. So therefore, if they make anything off of selling it, I don't think that they would have to get it. Hold on a second. Let's ask my AI friend here on my cell phone, right?
Hmm.
Let's see. With a deed in lieu of foreclosure, if the bank sells the property and there's equity, does the lender keep the equity or does the borrower get it back? No, the borrower surrenders all rights to any existing equity. So no, they don't get it. And here's the breakdown why. Well, it's because they signed over the ownership. That's why. So, whereas foreclosure is the process of the lien holder taking that property just to get paid back what's owed. With a deed in lieu of foreclosure, they're giving the ownership back. So if there is any excess equity, they get to keep it. And they're waiving their rights by signing a deed in lieu. The primary goal of the lender accepting a deed in lieu is to recover its financial losses as quickly as possible without the time and expense of a full foreclosure process. Okay, well, that's already what I explained. How does it compare to a foreclosure sale? No. Okay. So that's that. So no, if there is any equity, which that was actually a pretty good question. I don't think I ever had anybody ask me that before. Let me see
Thank
if I, you're welcome. Let me see if I could add that there to this slide here. If I could find it. There we go. So if a lender resells within 90 days, they can get a deficiency judgment against the mortgagor who defaulted on the loan if there is not enough equity to pay off what is owed. However, if there is excess equity than what was owed to the lender, the borrower, how did they word that? The borrower,
Do not get that.
well, they don't get it, but oh, damn. Oh, let's put it in there again. Oh, the borrower surrenders. Borrower surrenders all rights and existing equity in the property. There we go. See, we're always working on these slides to improve them a little bit. Now I got to make it fit. Okay, hold on. I could do this. I could do this. I've done it before. Let's see. Let's bring that to the front. You got to give it a colored fill. And let's take the eyedropper to do that. And there we go. Whoop, not everywhere. Bring it up a little bit. Is that everything? Yep, that's it. Yay. Got it to fit. $21. Let's get everything there. And let's make it 20. Fits better. There you go. Change the font size. There we go. We got all that in there. However, if there is excess equity, then what is owed to the lender, the borrower surrenders all rights and existing equity in the property. There you go. Good information. Thank you for that question there. All right. So a deed in lieu of foreclosure is an alternative to foreclosure. The lender may accept the deed in lieu of foreclosure from the borrower. This is sometimes known as friendly foreclosure because it's by agreement rather than a civil action. And the major disadvantage is to the lender, need to know that part for exam, is that it takes the real estate subject to all junior liens, while foreclosure would have eliminated them. However, because foreclosure is a time-consuming and expensive procedure, lenders will sometimes agree to accept the deed in lieu. Not if you ask them. Usually, they'll ask you as the borrower. They'll reach out to you. Now, I've had listings before. I was trying to work short sales on them, and the lender reached out to the homeowner and offered them a deed in lieu of foreclosure. And when they did that, and they came to me and they said, hey, the lender called me. I know you told me that if the lender calls you not to talk to them, to tell them to talk to your real estate agent or attorney, so that you don't screw things up. Basically, I tell you, don't talk to them. And so she came to me and she told me this, and I said, okay, so at this point, I'm going to explain to you what a deed in lieu of foreclosure is versus the short sale that I'm trying to do, and what the pros and cons are of each. And then you'll have to make the decision. But I also suggest before you do that, talk to your attorney about it and have them explain to you and suggest to you which is the better option. Okay. So then I tell them, listen, a short sale is this. Now, this is when you owe more on the house than it's currently worth. Okay. Not when you have a lot of excess equity. So I tell them, your home is not worth what you owe on it. So I'm trying to sell your property at whatever the current market value is. This is what a short sale is. I'm trying to sell your property at whatever the current market value is. So we're going to list it for sale at current market value, which could be significantly less than what you owe the bank. Now, why am I doing this? Well, because if the bank were to foreclose on you, what are they going to do? They're going to list it with a real estate agent and sell it at whatever the current value is just to recoup whatever they can. So it's the same situation, except we're doing it quicker. So we're actually working with your lender to try to save them money from the time and the cost of a lengthy foreclosure process by trying to market the property for sale now before they even take ownership of it through foreclosure. And we'll try to find a ready, willing, and able buyer that makes an offer that's reasonable to the current market values. And then we'll submit that over to the lender and try to get them to accept that amount. And if they accept it, and there's only one loan on the property, they'll accept it and file a satisfaction of lien in the public record, says paid, settled, less than full amount owed. And that's good to rebuild your credit from this day forward. You don't owe the lender any more money. They're not going to chase after you for any deficiencies or anything like that. And if I successfully do the short sale, I'll get your lender to pay my commission. I'll get your lender to pay for your attorney's fee. And depending on where your lender got the money from to lend to you, the source of that money, I may be able to get them to give you some money to help you relocate and work with them in this short sale to get out of it, get out of the property. So those are all the things that I could do to help people. And if there's a second loan on the property, well, it used to not be like this, but now it is. It used to be a much, much major pain in the ass than it is right now, where now the first lien holder will allow a second, or even if there's more lien holders, they'll allow them up to 10% of what's owed to pay them off, up to 10% for those other liens. Okay. Which it's better than just telling them, hey, go away, you're not getting anything, you're just a shoe fly shoe. They could be a pain because they could go try to get deficiency judgments against you before that property sells, and that could cause problems with doing the short sale or any sale for that. And then it'd have to go through foreclosure to wipe them out. All right, so and then I tell them about the deed in lieu of foreclosure, that the only, the lender's accepting to take that lien back. However, if you do have, well, if it's a short sale, they don't have any additional equity, so that's not an issue. If it's a short sale, accepting a deed in lieu of foreclosure would be good if you could get the lender to give you some documentation that it's paid, settled, and that they're not going to chase after you for any deficiency judgments. But I guarantee you they will not do that. Because if they manage to resell that property within 90 days, they're going to get a deficiency judgment against you and chase after you, especially if you're younger or you got a good job. It depends on your job, what you work, what you do. They look at all those factors, and they could still chase after you for deficiencies. These are amounts less than what you owed them still. Okay. So real estate owned, or REO for short, is just a bank-owned property. It's a property that the bank foreclosed, they own it, they wiped out all other liens, and it's owned free and clear by the bank. They usually don't hold on to these properties. They place them with asset managers to manage until they list it with real estate agents who can sell it for them. So an REO property is a bank-owned property. It's real estate owned by the bank. It's been foreclosed on. They own it free and clear. There's no other liens on the property, and they look to sell these properties. Okay. So you as a real estate agent, if you could find out or contact a lender's asset manager and make nice with them, they may start listing properties with you to sell. All right, we're pretty much done with this chapter now, but I got a couple interesting videos here at the end that pertain to the content that we've gone over.
Part was about the lender asset manager tip, not that we're at the end.
Oh, okay.
That's a good tip.
You're welcome. So, what are some good ways to stop? Oh, you want to find out where some lender asset managers do tend to dwell? There's a website called equator.com. You know, like the world has an equator, that equator. It's actually a software that they use to process short sales between lenders and such. And if you do good jobs on their asset managers monitor this, and they see attentive agents that have profiles on there as well, and they'll tend to reach out to you. Okay, so how do you stop foreclosure using 3 words? We'll find out.
Pray to God.
Right, joining
Well,
today by Peter Murphy and Terry Smiljanich. Tell us why ConsumerWarningNetwork.com got some national play this past week with an idea to helping people in foreclosures, and that is what?
That is called Produce the Note.
Is it like Show Me the Money?
Yeah, Show Me the Money, exactly. It's on our website, and it's received a lot of national attention. AP, CNN, ABC, a lot of different entities. And what it is, it's an attempt to provide some help to people that are in foreclosure,
Okay.
and who are just simply trying to slow things down so that maybe they can work with the bank a little more, because the bank's not returning their calls, is not willing to work with them. They hear about these Obama plans and other plans, and they'd like to participate in them. But meanwhile, the sheriff's knocking on the door, and they're going to be foreclosed next week. Well, what we talk about on our website is the idea of a simple request to the lender who's suing you. It's saying, let me see the note. You say, I owe you this money, and it's based on a note, a mortgage. Let me see the original note, not a copy of it. Let me see the original, because whoever holds that original is the one that has the right, to enforce the debt.
Well, I thought these things had been sliced and diced and chopped up and bundled and sent off to wherever.
The problem is
right?
there's still an original note somewhere. But it's been chopped up and diced and sold and resold.
what are they talking about right now? Well, the note, remember, there's 2 parts of a mortgage, the mortgage and the note. The note is the financing instrument that lays out all the terms of the borrowing. And the note is what makes you personally liable for the full amount you borrowed. And the only time that a lender can collect is they need to prove that the only time they could collect on a debt is if they could prove you owe them money. And they do that with the note. But if they can't find that note, they can't collect on the debt. So you could actually stop foreclosure in its process if a lender, you ask them, produce the note. Let me see the note. The one that I signed, the one you claim that I signed and that I owe you money. Remember, because you have the right to not self-incriminate yourself, so you could plead the fifth as far as them asking you questions. But you could say, because it's not up to you to help the lender and prove their case in court. So in court, it's up to them. You say, produce the note, show me the evidence. You're coming after me to get my property. I'm not here to help you do that. You got to produce the note and show that I owe you the money. Produce that note. And that's what this is. And if they can't find that original document that you signed with the ink, not a copy of it. By the way, no digital signatures allowed for original mortgage loan origination. That's only for refinancing. And even with refinancing, some of the documents need to be signed with ink. No digital signatures allowed for them. So, do you have the original document?
Sold and resold. And what it forces the mortgage lender to do is say, ooh, where is the note? And they have to go find it. And maybe sometimes they can't find it. They can still go to court and say, well, we can't find the note, but here's the proof that we have that we're the appropriate.
Now, he kind of skims over that. It's hard for them to do, to prove that they owe you the money if they don't have the note. The note's the document that shows it. They're going to have to build up some sort of a case to try to prove it. And that's not easy for them to do. So even though they try to explain this is not a way for deadbeats to get out of paying their mortgage, it is possible that they can, though. Now, I told you guys about loan origination. Your local bank, you go to them, you get a loan, and then they often already have an investor lined up that they're going to resell it to. So they sell them those loans that they originated, and it could be 10, 100, or thousands of loans. When they sell them, they have to follow up with finding their paperwork for the originated loans and then sending it off to the investor who bought that loan. And then they put it off in a warehouse somewhere where they keep their loan documents, right? Those original loan documents, those original paperwork. And then at some time, maybe that investor goes and resells some of those loans. And then at some point, they're going to have to find that paperwork again and forward it on to that investor who bought those loans from them. We call this mortgage-backed securities. A lot of times, lenders, in order to keep their licenses in banking, if they write too many bad loans or defaulting loans, they could lose their licenses to bank. So what they do is they package up enough of their bad loans with some good loans and they sell them to investors so they could get them off their books. They call this mortgage-backed securities. So now they're taking some of their loans, they're selling them here, they're selling them there. Where's the paperwork, though? Where is it to follow? Who's organizing this? And they could lose track and they could completely lose where these documents are.
So it's not a way to help like deadbeats or something and to just stay in a home for free.
Because
what
if
it
they
is,
find the note, you're still going to be foreclosed on.
you're still
right?
going to be foreclosed on.
So-
but if it buys you an extra
Like she said, if they could find the note.
8 months where you can work with the bank and try to modify, and maybe also people that have adopted the strategy, what we've seen often is that because they've taken that approach, suddenly the lender has gotten a lot more interested in returning their phone calls and working with
it
them.
gets them actually
Gets them-
in dialogue with
The squeaky,
right.
the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and so they get a little more attention from the bank, and they're willing to maybe work with them. So it's not a magic bullet of any kind, but it is an approach that people who are in those kind of desperate straits where they're about to have their property sold out from underneath their feet, to buy some time to see if they can work something out.
And you've seen it work for people.
Oh, we've seen it work for people, and there's lawyers in other states that have told us they've adopted the strategy, and they found that courts are very receptive to it.
Show me the note.
Show me the note.
That's fascinating.
Right? If a lender is going to foreclose on your client and you need to buy a little more time and those couple of weeks have gone by and all that stuff, you know, a lot of times these borrowers, they never showed up to the court hearings. That's why they get a judge that says agrees to the foreclosure. It's a default foreclosure because you didn't bother showing up to your own court case to defend yourself. So that's another thing. You should tell your clients to actually go to court. Go to court and say, produce the note. That's it. I bet you that they do not have it there with them in court. They're going to have to reschedule the court date. It buys you time. That's another strategy that most agents don't even do. Even though some of them may know about the strategy, they don't use it when helping someone even sell a property through to avoid the foreclosure process. But I'm giving you that, I'm imparting that information into you right now so that you know about it. In addition to knowing that you could delay a foreclosure twice for 2 weeks and the lender can, you could also tell the lender, produce the note. And I bet you they're not going to have it with them. And I bet you they're going to have a hard time finding it. Why? Because look at this. I have 3 videos on this. So I got 2 more to show you. And they all show a little bit different aspects of it.
Hello, I'm Angie Moreski. The important question now is how can you use the Produce the Note strategy to help you save your home? Attorney John Yanchunas is joining us today to help give you some tips on how to proceed. John, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, first question here, is this something that anybody facing foreclosure can use?
Everybody should use it. Everybody should put the lender to the task of establishing that it owns the debt that it claims that you owe to it.
Now, is there a good indicator? I noticed as I've looked through some of the mortgage foreclosure complaints that the lenders file with the court, some of them actually have these counts in them that say reestablishment of note, and then the wording is actually the mortgage note has either been lost or destroyed, and the plaintiff is unable to state the manner in which this has occurred. They're admitting that they lost or destroyed the note.
Well, obviously, that's the best sign available that the lender doesn't have the note mortgage any longer.
So if you see that, or if you want to just try produce the note strategy, what's the first thing you should do?
Request through discovery that instrument be produced to you. Once that's served on the lawyer representing the plaintiff's lawyer has got to respond within 30 days with the document requested. If it does not, then the consumer needs to go to court and ask the court to compel the plaintiff to produce that document.
So literally a letter or...
And if they can't, you could ask them to dismiss their claim.
A document that you send to the court, and we'll have a template on the website to help people through that process. And why is that so important to prove what?
Well, it's important to prove that the lending institution that is suing you on the note or to foreclose your home is in fact the owner of the debt. The lending institution which originated the note and mortgage, the debt, may no longer be the owner. It may have transferred it to another institution, which in turn may have transferred it to another lending institution, and so on and so forth.
And you should also be careful looking at the fees and penalties that they're rolling into this request. Is that right?
That can be collected like property inspection fees, late charges, but so frequently we found that some lending institutions collect sums of money which are simply made up. They're, I think, designed to increase the lender's bottom line. For instance, a foreclosure fee, a pre-bankruptcy fee.
So keep an eye on all those fees which may be unfair and unwarranted.
Absolutely. In fact, you should ask the lender for proof that that sum of money was paid.
Obviously, if you're behind in your mortgage, this is not a way to just get your house for free. What are we trying to do here?
Well, it gives the consumer leverage or buys the consumer time to work out with that lending institution a repayment plan of the arrearage or the default.
Do you think judges will be receptive to this?
Oh, absolutely. I've tried it many times. I've done it for many years. Judges expect lawyers and parties who come before them to adhere to the letter of the law.
So if I'm the homeowner and I end up before a judge, what do I say? What's my plea?
Well, what I want is the lender to produce the original note and mortgage. If they cannot, then put them to the task of establishing why they can't, and that they are in fact the owner of the note and mortgage. And of course, more importantly, or just as important, that every element of the debt that the lender claims that the consumer owes is in fact owed.
And the ultimate goal here is perhaps to get the lenders to be more receptive to negotiating fair terms so that a homeowner can actually stay in that home and keep their home.
Absolutely. The whole concept of equity, which is the principle which allows mortgages to be foreclosed, is a concept of fairness. And one of the most important principles in equity is equity abhors a forfeiture. That means that property that secures an obligation should not be forfeited unless the letter of the law has been followed.
It's a pretty big thing to lose your home, so you should fight for it.
It's the most important asset that any consumer will ever have.
Okay, John, thank you very much. We appreciate your time here today.
Thank you.
These are pretty good videos. These are older videos. Don't try going to the websites. Those websites aren't even up anymore. The Consumer Warning Network. Don't bother. It's not even up there. But when they were having all those massive short sales and foreclosures and mortgage restructuring, they were pretty busy. But now it's not even up there anymore. But here's another one where they actually show you an example. Is this the one where they show you the example? Or do I have one more? There's one that I have. It's either this one or there's another one after it that shows you the example of somebody actually doing this.
With so many people losing their homes, this report from 7 on Your Side can help. You could be able to freeze a foreclosure by saying 3 simple words. Michael Finney is here tonight with what they are, and Michael, why they might work for you.
Yeah, the idea is really pretty simple. The homeowner saying to the lender, produce the note. Now, that's legal shorthand for prove I owe you the money. American mortgages have been sliced and diced, bundled into complex financial vehicles, then sold around the world.
I think the note has been sold on so many times, and they've become very sloppy with their paperwork. It could be on a dumpster somewhere, for all I know.
And for all the banking and financial managers know, too. And that's becoming a safety net for homeowners. If the loan servicer can't prove they're collecting the money legally, the homeowner is off the hook, at least temporarily.
We've never seen a company produce the original note yet.
Say what? You guys hear that? They haven't seen a lender produce the note yet.
Attorney Chris Hoyer set up this website offering consumers advice and paperwork to pursue a produce the note strategy. In Florida, the strategy is forcing lenders to stop proceedings, buying homeowners precious time.
$100 going twice.
But it has apparently never been tried here in California. Till now.
They saved our house. She's the one that works day and night, day and night, day and night on this house. See, we don't understand none of this. She's the one that did it.
That's Isabel and Richard Caparelli. This is their home, and attempting to save it, Deborah Caparelli, their daughter-in-law. A different Florida attorney helped her by email.
First, he said, have your bankruptcy attorney file an amended schedule listing this property as unsecured. Okay? Unsecured means that Saxon, the servicer, would have to stand up and say, it's secured, we have the note.
The Caparelli's attorney, Mark Voisnat, did that, allowing him to then say, produce the note. And today, the Caparellis went back to court, hoping to be the first in a long line of homeowners successfully using the produce the note strategy in California.
The judge gave us more time, and it seemed that they can't find the note yet. So we got hopes, lots of hopes.
Nothing was decided today, but the note has still not been produced.
They claim they have it, but I have no proof that they have this note. And so you would think by now, it's been almost 3 months, they would have pulled out a copy if they had it.
A recent study has found those documents are being lost an astounding 40% of the time. Now, even without the note, the banks can eventually collect if they can prove they have the legal right to a note and they can have another one issued. But that takes time, and for many in foreclosure, time is needed to straighten out their financial situations.
Well, produce the note.
Produce
3 words.
Yeah.
It could save you some time.
Yep.
Thanks, Michael, very much.
I don't know what evidence that they would show that proves that you owe them the money, but that would help them establish a new note. But if they don't have that original document, they can't prove you owe them the money. They can't try to collect on it. So they got to stop the foreclosure process. Check out this situation. This was a story that blew me away. This lady used the produce the note strategy along with many others, and she managed to delay her foreclosure for 25 years. This was the longest known foreclosure. She knew her rights, what disclosures lenders were required to provide, and when, along with a host of other info and tactics that she used successfully against the lenders who tried to foreclose on her for years. They call it the foreclosure from hell. The lenders did. So the 25-year foreclosure from hell, banks now fear Patsy Campbell, who hasn't made a mortgage payment since 1985. An investment group finally foreclosed on her in 2010. Now, I did a little research in 2022 and found out she was still alive at the age of 84. This is Patsy, and this was her home. Patsy Campbell was a retired insurance saleswoman fighting it for 25 years, mortgage foreclosure case on her home in Florida. She'd been living there in her house, a 2-story on a half-acre, tidy middle-class neighborhood in Central Florida since 1978. And the last time she made a mortgage payment was October 1985. Her foreclosure case outlasted 6 lenders and seen 7 great-grandchildren born. Look, every time a lender sold that loan to another lender, they had to start the process from square one again. So Miss Campbell has been able to keep her house protected by a 105-pound pit bull named Dodger and a locked rusty gate, advising visitors to be aware of the dog. She challenged her foreclosure on the grounds that her mortgage was improperly transferred between banks and federal agencies, that lawyers for banks had waited too long to prosecute the case, that a Florida law shielded her from all her creditors, and for dozens of other reasons. See, this is what happens when you actually show up to court. She's met every attempt by a lender to repossess her home with multiple appeals and counteractions, burying them in paperwork, just like they do to you. So according to the Wall Street Journal, attorney Robert Summers, who represents the current owner of her mortgage, calls the foreclosure case every lender's worst nightmare. But so I put together this story from all these other news sources, but because I don't subscribe to the Wall Street Journal, and it's a pretty interesting case there. 25 years. If you bother to fight and show up in court, which, like I said, most people, they don't even open their mail. Now, this is something completely different. This woman was foreclosed on by her homeowners association in her condominium, which then buys her condo at auction for $3.25. And then they sell it for $1 to the attorney who reactivated her real estate license so that she could get paid the commission on it. And did the sale, and they split the profits. Now, the only reason why I'm mentioning this is not in New Jersey. The only reason why I'm mentioning it, though, is because New Jersey has very similar laws to this state, as this story will show you. Now, before I get into this, and this is the last video here before we go on to the next chapter, let's do the key terms to review before we get into this story. How about that? Because we haven't done them yet. So let's do the key terms to review here for the chapter 13, and then we'll watch this last video. Are you guys ready with the key terms?
Yes,
we
sir.
lost one too. Okay, lender. Who's the lender also known as?
The mortgagor.
Mortgagor is the borrower. The lender is...
Oh, sorry, mortgagee.
The mortgagee. There you go. 11 is A. Pledging of property as security without surrendering possession of it. What is that referred to as? It sounds like a rich word. An upper crusty, rich sounding word.
Complete security without surrendering possession.
Yes.
It's a number 9. I can.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Hypothecation.
Hypothecation. It sounds like a rich word, like an upper crusty rich word, right? Hypothecation. That's pledging a property as security for the loan without surrendering that property. You're living in it. So 9 is B, correct. A written pledge of real estate as security for the loan. What is the pledge, the promise to pay?
The mortgage.
The mortgage itself, correct. 10 is C. You see how if you ask yourself a question about the question, it kind of like pops up. A property acquired by lenders.
Foreclosure.
What do we call those properties that are owned by lenders? Those
real property?
Bank-owned properties? Yes. REO. 15 is D. Real estate owned by the bank. Clause ensuring that after repayment, the lender has no claim on the property. It requires them to go back and file a satisfaction of mortgage or satisfaction of lien in public records.
Defeasance clause?
Yes, the one that sounds like defeated, defeasance clause. Correct. 5 is E. Borrower's statement of how much remains on the mortgage debt. You know, when they sell the loan, they verify all the terms. What's that document that verifies all the terms of the loan? How much remains on the mortgage debt?
Estoppel certificate.
Yep. Correct. An estoppel certificate. 7 is F.
Kevin's on a roll over here, man.
A court order that the borrower may pay money lost by the lender after foreclosure.
Deficiency judgment.
6 is G, the deficiency judgment. What do we call the borrower?
The mortgagor.
The mortgagor is the borrower. Right? 12 is H. A clause stating that if the property is sold, the debt is immediately payable.
Alienation clause.
Correct. 2 is I, the alienation clause. Proceeding to auction foreclosed real estate. What do we call that proceeding that auctions foreclosed real estate?
Sheriff's sale.
A sheriff's sale. 18 is J. Charging higher interest than is allowed by law. Showed you a cartoon about it.
Usury.
Usury. Correct. 20 is K. Failure to live up to any part of a mortgage agreement.
Default.
You are now in default. That is correct. 4 is L. The lender's statement that the debt has been repaid in full.
Satisfaction of mortgage.
Correct. 16 is M. Satisfaction of mortgage. Personal promise to repay money similar to a note.
Mortgage.
A bond.
A bond.
Oh,
3
okay.
is N. A lender's statement of how much remains on the debt. The lender's
Reduction certificate.
Reduction certificate.
Correct. Correct. The reduction certificate. 14 is O. That's the lender's statement of the terms. Arrangement by which the mortgage holder gives up priority. They agree to drop back in lien position.
Is
No.
19 subordination agreement.
Correct. 19 is P, subordination agreement.
Sub. Yeah.
To seize or sell property pledged for a debt. What do we call that process?
Foreclosure.
Correct. It is foreclosure. 8 is Q. A clause stating that in case of default, the whole debt is immediately payable.
Acceleration clause.
Yes.
Yes, 1 is R, the acceleration clause. They accelerate the terms of the loan being entirely due and owing immediately. Let me ask you, the acceleration clause is also known as what? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm mixing them up. I'm mixing up alienation clause. Sorry. Never mind. Brain fart.
The alienation clause, also known as.
Yeah, what is the alienation clause also known as? Since you brought it up.
Come on, Kevin.
Right.
You on a roll, Kevin.
I know.
It's also known as the due on sale clause
Due
in
on
the
sale.
note, or the resale clause. Yep. Okay. Document given to a purchaser of foreclosed property.
Sheriff's deed.
The sheriff's deed. 17 is S. And personal promise to repay a loan similar to a bond.
No.
Now it's a mortgage.
It's a note.
Oh, my Lord Jesus.
13 is T. Yes, we use notes in New Jersey. We don't use bonds, but the bond and a note do the same thing. Okay, so that concluded chapter 13 here, but I still got that one story to tell you about that's similar to New Jersey, just so that you're aware of some of these things. Because New Jersey has similar laws as this state. I forget what state this is from, where the woman is foreclosed by her HOA, which then buys her condo at auction for $3.25. Then they sell it for a penny, or I'm sorry, for $1 to the attorney who did the foreclosure, and then they split the profits. And they actually also reactivated their real estate license so they could earn a commission on it too. It's the craziest thing. So let's take a look. Open this up. This is through a browser window, not in the
Okay, here's me calling.
When Patricia Quigley calls her HOA's property management company, she gets this message.
Let me see. I thought I could get this full screen. I think I can, actually.
The number you dialed is not a working number.
But call from any other phone number.
Thank you for calling Access Management Group.
You're blocked.
9 a.m.
In 2010, Quigley, upset with her HOA's billing process, decided to take a stand and refused to pay her dues, about $700 that year.
Sorry, I clicked on something.
Okay, here's me calling.
When Patricia Quigley calls her HOA's property management company, she gets this message.
The number you dialed is not a working number.
But call from any other phone number.
Thank you for calling Access Management Group.
You're blocked.
9 a.m.
In 2010, Quigley, upset with her HOA's billing process, decided to take a stand and refused to pay her dues, about $700 that year. But that only led to letters from Lozeka and Johansson, the law firm hired to collect on the debt. And that debt had grown.
Walked in, paid him the $2,700, and when I walked out, I said, "This is all I owe, right?" Yes.
But it wasn't all you owed.
No.
Shortly after, she received another bill for $3,000. She called and sent letters trying to figure out why. But all Quigley says she got in return were cryptic statements, dates with amounts that didn't make any sense to her.
Then here comes the next set of letters. And now it's up to $6,400.
Turns out there were post-judgment legal fees and 18% back interest. So even after she'd paid more than $9,000, she was still somehow behind on her dues. But in 2018, she received the most shocking letter of all, an eviction notice.
You know, you lose your home. That's hard.
But sadness turned to anger when she realized the HOA had purchased her home through foreclosure for $3.24 a year before she was evicted. So you had been living in your house for a year, but you didn't legally own your house.
No.
Quigley says not only did the HOA accept her dues payment on a house she apparently did not own, but allowed her to make another $4,600 in home loan payments before getting kicked out. She paid a debt she did not owe.
Yes, that's for sure. And they don't have to give it back.
Attorney George Nowak has helped craft Georgia's HOA laws since the 1980s. He says Quigley's story is tragic, but it is a tragedy of her own making.
It doesn't happen
In a vacuum.
in a back room in blue smoke and mirrors.
Nowak says the HOA can't win a judgment until the homeowner owes at least $2,000. The court must perform a title search, have the foreclosure posted in the paper for a month, and the homeowner served.
They brought this on because they ignored all of the requests to pay. They didn't show up at the trial most times.
You want some more?
Quigley admits she never did go to court, not understanding the process or the stakes involved. But Phoenicia Law, a homeowner in Douglas County, did try to fight the HOA's claims against her.
When they garnished my bank account, I was unemployed.
Law owns a home in the Rosewood Community Association. She received a payment plan to catch up on her dues, but there were a few added fees she didn't understand.
I didn't know how it was stacking up. You
just knew it was a lot.
I knew it was a lot.
She disputed the bill in court, appealing to the judge for help.
These exhibits I sent to the court.
But court records say Law's dispute arrived one day too late. So the judge couldn't consider issues like this check, an HOA payment mailed in vain.
Clearly, returned to sender 7 times.
The kicker, after she lost the case, she was told to mail her settlement payment to that same address. And this time, the check didn't come back.
While it's portrayed as cold and you're taking advantage of the homeowner, it's the exact opposite. People who don't pay their assessments are having everybody else in the community subsidize them.
Georgia law fiercely protects an HOA's right to collect what is owed, but neither of these women deny their debt. What they do have a problem with is the inability to mediate and ask questions when a disagreement arises.
A lot of times, people can't afford to fight. They just have to walk away.
According to the Community Association Institute, 6 states have.
Remember this CAI, Community Association Institute, to learn how to manage condo associations? I was talking to you about that in chapter 12. So that's what they're mentioning here, the Community Association Institute. Let's just back that up just a second so that I interrupted there.
The Community Association Institute, 6 states have some type of ombudsman to help educate and facilitate these discussions. And several states require mediation before a lawsuit is filed. Georgia isn't one of them.
And neither's New
After
Jersey.
Quigley was evicted, the Reveal learned her HOA sold the house to an employee at the law firm involved in her foreclosure.
That really bothers me because how could that not be illegal?
According to public documents, Legacy Investment Properties, a company that didn't legally exist at the time, bought the house for $1 and a portion of the profits. The woman behind the LLC then reactivated her real estate license and sold the home to a new family.
I've never heard a story like that before.
Well, the HOA and law firm recouped their money, and the LLC likely made some.
This cat's tougher than...
Quigley ended up homeless, losing tens of thousands of dollars in equity.
The courts have said there is no legitimate reason for not paying. If you believe the association has done you wrong, then sue the association.
Pay it.
And sue the association.
Wow. That's some story, huh? All right. That concludes chapter 13. I believe it does anyway. Let me just make sure. Yeah. Oh, actually, there was one more. There was one more video there that you guys may get some satisfaction out of. Have you ever heard of somebody foreclosing on a bank? Here's a story where Bank of America went after a lady and her husband, and they tried to foreclose on her, but they never had a loan on the house. They bought it for cash, and they tried to foreclose on them. And so, well, let the story speak for itself here. I'll play this story and let you guys watch that. Okay.
As a foreclosure defense attorney, this is sweet justice.
Only on Wink tonight, the tables are turned. Instead of Bank of America foreclosing on a home, a homeowner has deputies foreclose on the bank.
Bank of America filed foreclosure papers on a homeowner who didn't owe a dime. They paid for their house with cash.
Renee Stoll live at the Bank of America branch on Davis Boulevard in Naples with this story you'll see only on Wink tonight.
This is about a family who fought back and won. Their foreclosure nightmare started when they bought a house in the Golden Gate Estates owned by Bank of America. Like you said, they paid cash, so they never had a mortgage. Well, Bank of America fouled it up somewhere along the lines and actually tried to foreclose on the family. And what happened today, you're just going to have to see to believe. Movers, a truck, and an armed deputy, all while a nervous homeowner stands by and waits. This is normally what you'd see when a person's being foreclosed on and their property seized by a bank. But today, it's the other way around.
They've ignored our calls, ignored our letters. Legally, this is the next step to get my clients compensated.
A Collier County judge said Bank of America had to pay Maureen Nairges and her husband's legal fees after the bank tried to foreclose on their Golden Gate Estates property, but they paid cash. The courts agreed they never had a mortgage to begin with. After more than 5 months, the bank still hadn't paid up. So the homeowner's attorney did just what the bank would do to get their money, seize their assets.
I instructed the deputy to go in and take desks, computers, copiers, filing cabinets, including cash in the drawers.
Outside the bank, several deputies stood by with movers ready to start hauling out the bank's office supplies and furniture. Inside, the homeowner's attorney was locked out of the bank manager's office by deputies while the bank manager tried to figure out what to do.
He was visibly shaken. Having two sheriff's deputies sitting across your desk and a lawyer standing up behind them, demanding whatever assets are in the bank, it can be intimidating. But so is having your home foreclosed on when it wasn't right.
After about an hour, the bank finally cut a check.
As a foreclosure defense attorney, this is sweet justice, because this is a symptom of a larger problem.
Now, the homeowner's attorney says that he sees mistakes all the time in foreclosure court where banks do not do their due diligence, and it winds up becoming a very lengthy process for the homeowners. He says he can only think of one other time where an attorney, the deputies, and a U-Haul came to a bank before ready to seize property. That was in Tampa. As far as Bank of America, they issued a statement saying that they apologize for the wait on the payment. They issued a notice to pay from the attorney that was working on the case on their side, but they didn't know the attorney went out of business. We'll be reporting live here in Naples. Renee Stoll, Wink News now.
Yeah, likely story. The attorney went out of business. But that's great. When have you ever heard of somebody foreclosing on a bank? All right, so now that concludes chapter 13. So